Hello, everybody. My name is Veronica. I am the school counselor. I work in the Hamilton location, and I am presenting to you today a stress reduction workshop. It's the second part of possibly a three-part series. Feel free to have paper and pencil available so you can take down any notes. Please limit your distractions and mute your mic. We might be recording this presentation, so just to let you know, it's not going to be public. It's just for our own internal recording and information. So just wanted to let you all know that. Okay. All right. So let's begin. I'm going to go to the next slide. Please remember to mute your mic as well. Okay, we're going to start everyone with a welcome activity. I'd like you all to sit comfortably, stand with a good posture. You want your shoulders relaxed. You're going to take 3 comfortable deep breaths. You're going to breathe in through the nose and breathe out through the mouth. Ready? Here we go. Breathe in. Out. That's 1. In. Out. That's 2. In. Out. That's 3. Okay, I'd like you also to write your name in the chat and just say hello. And now we're going to do some gentle neck rolls. We're going to do 3 to the left and 3 to the right. Right? Very gentle. So 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to do the other side. 1, 2, and 3. So that releases the tension in your neck. It helps to improve the circulation so that you can think a little bit more clearly and pay more attention. Okay, thank you to all of you who said hello in the chat. We'll move on to the next slide. Our agenda for today. I'm going to review our first workshop, our first stress reduction workshop. So I'm going to go over what we learned in part 1 of our stress reduction workshop. Then I'm going to discuss mindfulness. We're going to learn about what mindfulness is and how to practice some mindfulness meditations. Then we're going to take a look at forgiveness. We're going to learn a little bit about forgiveness and how forgiveness affects our level of stress. We're going to learn about rumination and its role in stress and forgiveness, and empathy. And finally, we're going to do some more activities to help us with stress. In our first presentation, we talked about the fact that when we hear the word stress, we think, oh no, stress, oh no, what am I going to do? And it puts us in a state of just feeling very frozen, not knowing what to do. Hopefully, with these activities and these strategies that I'm giving you, we can move from a state of stress. Oh, I can do it. I can reduce my stress. Feeling like you can control some of your stress so that you are able to work productively and function productively, and so that stress isn't ruining your life. Now, these are simple techniques that you can use every day. It's available to you anytime, and it's techniques that are sometimes overlooked because we need to train ourselves to use them again. Often when we have stress, we think that stress is not manageable, but there are certain things that are manageable with stress, that we can manage with stress. We defined stress previously as stress being a common response to new, uncertain, or threatening situations. In a stressful situation, you may notice changes in how you think, feel, and act. For example, a new situation might be you have a new job or a new assignment at work. You may feel uncertain about money. Maybe they reduced your hours at work and you're not sure how you're going to pay your bills. A threatening situation could be like when you're driving on the freeway and everyone's driving really fast and you need to change lanes. You feel very threatened. You feel like your life is in danger. So these are just some common examples that we talked about. And it's important for you to identify what your stress, what is causing your stress, what type of situation. If it's a new situation, uncertain situation, or threatening situation. And it could be also a combination of the three, one or two. Just to tell you a little bit more, when we have that stress, oh no, we have trouble in the way that we think, in the way that we feel, and in the way that we act. Our thinking often becomes confused and we get stuck sometimes in a negative thought pattern. Our body reacts to stress differently. We may feel tension. We may have body aches. And the way we may feel fearful or angry. And then that affects the way we act. Often we lose our desire to do things. And we may resort to things like alcohol to numb, to keep us in that numb state. But you can control your responses. And these are some ways that you can control your responses. Breathing. What does breathing do? Breathing helps us to circulate oxygen so we can think clearly. Stretching. Stretching relaxes the tension in our body so we can think clearly as well. Reframing and circle of control. In our first workshop, we talked about the fact that we can take a negative statement and we can reframe it. We can say it in such a way where it gives us the ability to take action or see it in a new light. It changes how we think and feel and decide to act during a stressful situation. And this all comes from the reframing. These strategies come from a study done by pioneers in human neuroscience, where it tells us that slow breathing, it produces an activity in the brain where it increases our level of comfort and relaxation. It also increases alertness. So it's important for us to be mindful of our breathing and how we're breathing, because that's going to affect how alert we are and how we function in our daily lives. It seems like, oh, it's simple, it's breathing. But sometimes we're not aware if we are breathing fully or if we are holding our breath or in a state of tension or stress. I'm going to quickly review the activities we learned in the previous workshop. We talked about when we breathe, we can imagine an image of nature that makes us feel calm. For example, I have a picture here of a dandelion. We're going to go through all of this as if it's steps that we can take in a series to help us reduce stress. So we're going to start, and you can start with me. So I'm going to start pretending. I'm going to pretend that there's a dandelion in front of me, and I'm going to gently breathe. And I'm going to breathe for 3 breaths, okay? Breathe as comfortably as you need to. Remember, we talked about breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. So that's what we're going to do here, okay? So follow along with me. First breath. Let it out. Imagine blowing the little paths from the dandelion away from you. We're going to do 1 more, 2 more. And third one. It has a cooling effect on the body when we breathe out. Now we're going to rub our hands together, and we're going to do a sample of the Japanese healing, Japanese stress reduction technique called Reiki. So when we rub our hands together, we should feel tingling. And then we're going to slowly move it apart, put it back together, and use this warmth to place our hands on our head for a second, gently, on our ears, and we can put them on our shoulders, cross them in front of you on your collarbone, all while we're breathing comfortably. Okay. The next thing we learned about stretching, and specifically stretching in terms of facial yoga, right? So we're going to put our fingers together on our forehead, and we're going to gently stretch away. Gently stretch away. We'll do this 3 or 4 times. We do this because stress can show up in our face, and this is a technique to move the circulation around. There was a study done that if we do this kind of exercise, this kind of facial yoga, it has an impact on our ability to feel relaxed, and it can also affect whether or not our wrinkles are more pronounced or not. Okay. Now we're going to take our finger and we're going to put it in our pressure point. Pressure points, acupressure is very popular in Chinese medicine. This pressure point is known to relieve insomnia, and it just helps with overall relaxation. So we're going to massage it 3 or 4 times in one direction, and 3 or 4 times in another direction. Okay, you should feel like tingling. You're starting to feel like the blood circulating, and that's all good signs. Our next activity is the thumbs to pit stretch. Chiropractors recommend these for their patients to help them with their posture and to also help circulate the blood. So I have my fingers fanned out. I'm going to place the thumbs under my armpits, and sometimes there's like a little soft spot. You can gently press that soft spot and then just lift your chin up, and we'll hold this for 5 seconds. I'm just going to count out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and relax. Okay. Okay. We do these activities because it helps us get out of that flight or fight response, and then we're able to think clearly. So now we can think about, okay, what caused my stress? Am I aware of how stressful I feel? We talked about having a stress tracker where we can circle how stressed out we feel. For example, if you're a 0, obviously no stress, up to 5, extremely stressed. We need to be aware, and then we need to accept the situation. So you need to identify what is causing you stress. I am stressed because of a new job, let's say. This situation is new, and then maybe it could feel uncertain. So identify your response to stress and how you feel. The circle of control. The circle of control has to do with what we can control in this situation and what we can't. Letting go of what we can't control helps us actually relieve stress. And realizing what we can control and focusing on that makes us feel that we can actually accomplish things even though we feel stressed out. Now, we also talked about the idea of reframing. So what is reframing? Reframing is taking a negative statement and changing it into a positive statement. When you have a negative statement, such as I can't, it makes you feel frozen, okay? You don't want to take action if you keep telling yourself you can't. We can reframe it into a more unfrozen state where you feel like you can take action. You can reframe I can't to maybe I can. You can reframe a statement like it's difficult to it's an opportunity to learn. So we learned all of this in the first workshop. On the CDC website, there's a page called Healthy Ways to Cope with Stress. The CDC website says feeling emotional and nervous or having trouble sleeping and eating can all be normal reactions to stress. They recommend some healthy ways for you to deal with stress. I'm just going to mention the 3 bullet points that are on their list of ways to cope with stress. You can take breaks from watching and reading and listening to the news, because obviously news stories can be they can just cause a lot of fear, right? And also take a break from social media. It's good for you to be informed, but you don't want to constantly be consuming negative news, right? Things that make you feel more stressed out. So you want to limit the news and how much you watch every day. It's also a good idea to disconnect from the TV and the phone and computer screens for a while. You want to take care of yourself. Eating healthy, exercise, get plenty of sleep, give yourself a break if you feel stressed out. These are all things that we know, but we need reminders to schedule them in our daily lives. The 3rd bullet point says take care of your body. And this is what we've been learning. We have been learning that one way to take care of your body is to take deep breaths, to stretch, or to meditate. We're going to learn more about the CDC's recommendation for meditation and one specific meditation in terms called mindfulness. Okay, I have a question for you that I'd like you to ask yourself. How many stones do I see? I want you to take a look and I want you to count the stones, and I'll give you 10 seconds to do that. Okay, now that everybody's counted the stones, you might be wondering, what does this have to do with anything? Well, it has to do with mindfulness, and I'll connect the dots in a little bit. So let's go to our next slide, where we're going to listen to a video. Okay, we're going to watch this video from the Institute of National Health. They're talking about what is mindfulness.
I'm Amishi Jha, and I'm an associate professor in the Department of Psychology at the University of Miami.
What is mindfulness?
So mindfulness is kind of a big term, and one helpful metaphor to think about it is that it's sort of like an MP3 player. Our mind is really good at mental time travel. We can put the button on.
Veronica, I kind of muted. It was working and then I muted.
On those experiences. But those two functions, fast forward and rewind, are really not what we're talking about when we talk about mindfulness. By mindfulness, we're talking about keeping that button right on play so that we are completely aware and in the present moment, and our attention is fully dedicated to the present moment of our experience.
Describe your research on mindfulness training and building resilience.
One big area of research in my laboratory is to understand if we can use mindfulness training to help people build their own resilience. And when I use the term resilience, I'm talking about this capacity to bounce back from a period of intensive stressors so that you're back to full functioning, or to even get through the period of high stress while maintaining normal functioning. This is a hard thing to do. So what we've been doing is trying to see if we can have work with populations that are going to be undergoing a period of extreme stress for a long period of time. This can be military service members or military spouses for whom the deployment cycle really captures that quite well. We're also working with populations like undergraduates who have exam stress at the end of each semester, or workplace contexts like CPA firms where they've got the entire intensive period of tax season to deal with. So there's many different circumstances, both in the military and civilian context, in which high stress can be a problem. And what we do is we look to see how offering mindfulness training to these groups might protect against the degradation of this important feature of our ability to pay attention, and executive control, which is this capacity to make sure that our current behavior is in line with our goals. Because we already know that those capacities, attention and executive control, are really vulnerable to high stress, we hope that what we'll see when we offer people mindfulness training is that those capacities can be protected or preserved from degradation. And so far, the news has been quite good. In active duty military cohorts, in military spouses, in workplace contexts, and with students, we found that offering mindfulness training and ensuring that people are actually practicing mindfulness exercises, it seems to be a productive way to help build their own resilience to the long period of stress that they must endure.
Okay, sorry about that. I hope you got the definition, but in the next slide, we're just going to summarize basically what she said. Ooh,
I'm Amishi
Let's just
Jha,
turn
and
that
I'm
off. Let's see if I can go to the next slide. There we go. Okay, so basically she said thoughts in our mind travel, right? We think about the past, we think about the future, right? The past is, oh, what did we do? So we're thinking about something that happened in the past years ago, and we're constantly thinking about that. And or we're thinking about the future. What are we going to do? You know, what am I going to do for New Year's 2022 or something like that? And that's not mindfulness. That takes away from the present experience, and from it actually adds more stress in our lives if we keep doing that. For example, like some of our students are coming back to high school after being in high school when they were teenagers, and they're coming back as adults, and they keep in their mind thinking about experiences that they had that were not so good when they were in high school. And if they bring that to the present moment, then it's going to affect how they interact with their schoolwork and their ability to learn. Next. All right, so you counted the stones before. Why did you count the stones? What do you think it had to do with mindfulness? Does anybody want to give me an idea of what they think counting the stones had to do with mindfulness? Does anybody want to share? Does somebody want to tell me how many stones they see?
I saw 6.
Yes, 6. So 6 is exactly right. If you had trouble like focusing, or if you started thinking about what you did yesterday or what you're going to do tomorrow, or if you were like, oh, do I want to do this or don't I want to do this? That's you kind of thinking about experiences you've had and you not being in the present moment. So it's just a simple exercise for you to realize, oh, all I needed to do was focus and count on the stones, but my mind was wandering. So I like Bitmoji, so I just kind of put myself there. It's like if you're thinking, and just to reiterate the point, it's about what you thought in the past. So for example, sometimes you have a conversation with somebody, you're like, oh no, I wish I would have said something different. Or maybe you're thinking about the future. Maybe I will apologize tomorrow. So these are things that are constantly in our mind, but you don't want to have these thoughts when you're, for example, doing schoolwork, or when you're focusing on having a conversation with somebody like your spouse. You don't want to focus on those things, right? So this is what mindfulness is about. We want to be in the present moment. Now we're going to do a present moment breath activity. This is an activity that I learned. I'm taking a class, and as part of the class, I'm learning meditation. So this is a meditation that I learned in my class. And you want to do it with your eyes open, fully present, whatever you're doing. So let's say you're filing in your office, or you're cleaning, you're washing dishes. I want you to do this with eyes open, and in your mind, you're going to say the following. I'm going to say it out loud, but you're saying it in your mind. So you breathe in and you say, I breathe in the present moment. I listen and observe in the present moment. I breathe out in the present moment. I listen and observe in the present moment. So I'm just going to say this out loud, and you guys can breathe in and breathe out for 3 moments as I say it, and you say it in your mind. I breathe in the present moment. I listen and observe. I breathe out in the present moment. I listen and observe. I breathe in the present moment. I breathe out in the present moment. I breathe in the present moment. And I breathe out. So when you're practicing this at home initially, you may want to use the full phrase, but eventually you want to be able to not think about the fact that you're breathing. But if you need to get back into the present moment, you could just say quick, I breathe in the present moment. I breathe out the present moment, okay? Work stress. This person is having work stress. So I'm gonna talk out a scenario with you, and we're going to just think about how this person can be in the present moment. So this person, he has a new assignment at work. He has to create a presentation. Every time he works with Google Slides, he always has issues. So he's constantly thinking about that. And that's his past thoughts. I always have issues with Google Slides. In the future, his future thoughts are, my presentation will look awful. So when he's in these two states, he cannot focus on doing anything that has to do with actually creating his presentation. It kind of freezes him up. He feels like he can't do the task that was given to him. So if you can relate to this, just give yourself a thumbs up wherever you are. I don't need to see it, but if you can relate, give yourself a thumbs up. Based on everything that we've learned so far, how do you think we can help him reduce his stress? Can I have a volunteer? Does anybody have an idea of how we can help this person reduce stress? Think about what we learned so far. What's one technique you would advise him to do? You can type it in the chat, or you can feel free to unmute and tell us what you think. I'll give you like 10 seconds. If not, we'll just move on.
I think he needs to take a break and breathe in and out.
Okay, thank you, Jolema. Yes, that's actually, this is so simple and we forget. The first thing he should do is just breathe in and out. Why? Because that's gonna increase his circulation. It's gonna help him to think clearly. So thank you so much for that. Yes, so let's go to the next slide. All right, so we wanna train ourselves to stay in the present. We've already learned that we can breathe and we can stretch. But sometimes these thoughts, we can also just say stop to the thoughts, right? So we can stop the thoughts of the past and the future. Just say stop, breathe, and stretch. So this is another technique you can do. When you catch yourself constantly thinking, and you're not in the present moment, stop, breathe, stretch, okay? You can say that to yourself, and you can do that to help you stay in the present moment. When you have a problem, you can think, for example, this person, in this scenario, you have to identify the problem. What is the problem? I don't know how to use Google Slides very well. What can be the solution? Ask for help, watch a video to learn about it. So all these things can help us to be in the present moment. We don't want to stay stuck in the thoughts about the past or in thoughts about the future. Here is an opportunity for us to think about how to help him reframe the situation. Remember that reframing means when he has a statement that kind of keeps him stuck, frozen, and he's not able to take action, what can he change the statement to so that he can take action? All right. So the statement that kept him kind of frozen in the past that said, I always have a problem with Google Slides. Does anybody have an idea of how we can reframe that so that it can be an action statement, a positive statement? Anybody have any ideas? And feel free to write them in the chat if you'd like as well. Just give you a moment to think about that. You can also think about the second statement, my presentation will look awful. That's a very negative statement. Actually, it keeps him from taking action. How can he change that statement into something more positive? Does anybody have any ideas?
I think he needs to be confident about himself.
So how would you, thank you, and how would you change the statement? I always have a problem with Google Slides. What can he say instead?
He has to find out the problem first. and then fix it.
Okay, so he can see, I always have a problem with Google Slides. So maybe look closer at what is the problem with Google Slides. So maybe he can ask the question, what is the exact problem I have with Google Slides, right? So if he asks that question, then he's able to kind of search for the answer. Thank you. Very good. How about for the second statement? Does anybody
Veronica.
have a suggestion?
Veronica, real quick, we have for the first one, Gil said, I'm getting better at creating presentations, and Ryan said, I can learn more about Google Slides.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks, Ryan and Gail. So that's just an example of how we can go from a state of like just feeling like we cannot take any action to a state that we can take action. All right, so our next activity, it comes from the Harvard School of Education, where they've done multiple studies that say that mindfulness actually helps students to stay alert and perform better all around. This activity is called the Count to 5 activity. And what we're going to do is we're going to count to 5 forward and then count to 5 backwards. So sit upright comfortably with your feet on the floor, with your feet on, your feet on the floor and your hands resting on your knees. You're gonna relax your body and breathe. Count in your mind forward from 1 to 5. Count backwards from 5 to 1. Do the best you can, and we will do this for 30 seconds, okay? So I'm gonna count out loud, and then I'm gonna slowly trail off, and you guys continue to count in your mind. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you guys continue. Okay, so in that activity, if you had trouble, all you have to do is just come back to the activity. You don't want to judge yourself. You just want to notice where your thoughts are and just come back to the current activity. This is a good activity also for you to do with students in the classroom that have trouble focusing. You can train them to focus on counting to 5 and then teach them how their mind wanders and how they have to come back to the activity. The next slide. Right. In this slide, we're going to take a look at what's different in terms of the objects in the first picture, the picture on, I guess it would be your left, and the picture on the right. So if we take a look at the picture on the right, what's different? Or what's different, okay? So there are 5 things that are different. We want to pay attention with purpose, okay? You are not daydreaming and you're in the moment. So go ahead, I'll give you some time to do that. And you can write them in the chat if you'd like. So there's 5 things. Okay, does anybody want to share what's different?
Can I say or just write?
You can say, you can say it.
I found 1, 2, 3, just 3.
Okay, tell me what they were.
I saw the sheets out, the green box.
Yes.
I saw the black pen. Well, you have two two pencils on the right side, and the other one just one,
Yes.
and that's it.
Okay, did anybody see the other one? Thank you so much, huh? Anybody see there's two more?
That's your man. Now it's my turn.
Yes. Oh, go ahead.
A stapler,
Yeah, the
almost
stapler.
different one. Yeah. And then the notepad, one with the flower, one without. And then the folder backward on this side.
Backwards.
Yeah, right?
It's facing the other way. Yes. So
Yeah.
Ha said that the folder has the pink papers facing one way in one in the first picture, and then it faces the other way in the other picture. And she
Yeah.
said the stapler. So the actual the flowers that you mentioned that were cut off, it's just because I didn't photograph properly.
Oh, okay.
There is a difference. There is a difference there as well. So
Yeah.
thanks
Yeah.
to those of you. So this
Yeah.
is just an example of paying attention with purpose. And when you pay attention with purpose, it helps you to, it's part of mindfulness. It's just part of mindfulness. It helps you with focus, and it helps you to get things done. Actually, if you think about like studying for a test or something like that, if you focus this way, it will really help you save time. Right. So our next slide here, we're going to talk a little bit about the relationship between forgiveness, stress, and health. There was an article published. It was a study done in 2016 in the Society of Behavioral Medicine, and they talked about how stress has a relationship, how forgiveness has a relationship with stress, and it affects our health, specifically our mental health. It was a 5-week study in which they examined people's forgiveness traits. They examined whether or not people had these levels of forgiveness traits and how it affected their stress level and their mental health. So let's talk a little bit about this study. One of the findings was that an increase in empathy and a decrease in decreases in attributing responsibility for a situation to another were associated with increases in forgiveness. So what does that mean? When you have empathy, in other words, when you're able to recognize and understand and share the thoughts and feelings of another person, animal, or fictional character, when you're able to do this, instead of blaming another person or trying to find the responsibility or trying to get the other person to be responsible for a situation, it helps to forgive. And when you increase the forgiveness, what the study found is that it helps you with mental health. Now, probably in the next workshop we have, I want to talk a little bit about this idea of compassion fatigue. We do want to be empathetic toward people, but we don't want to be so empathetic that we stress ourselves out even more. But I will talk more about this in our next presentation, our next workshop. Okay, development of empathy. So the question arises, how do we develop empathy? And it's something so simple, but it's hard to do. So how do you want to be treated? So the golden rule, think about the golden rule. The most familiar version of the golden rule says, do unto others as you would have others have them do unto you. Do I want to be treated that way? Think about how you want to be treated. This is it's easy to see other people, but it's hard to see yourself in a situation. It's very easy to see it in others, but not in yourself. So you can ask yourself, I will treat that person, or you can say to yourself, I will treat that person with kindness and respect without expecting anything in return. And this is the hard part about developing empathy, because if you're treating a person with kindness, but you get upset if they're not kind back to you, then it kind of shows you that maybe that giving of kindness was not genuine. And this is something that we all need to develop. Now, when you start to work on your empathy, it starts to create these new pathways in the brain. Instead of always focusing on getting angry, instead of always focusing on experiencing the anxiety and getting stuck in past thoughts, if you start to develop a state of empathy. It creates new ways of thinking, which will help you with stress. All right, so we're going to look at this video about stress and the body. Why should you forgive someone, especially if you're mad? Here's one good reason: for your health. According to Johns Hopkins psychiatrist Karen Schwartz, forgiving someone relieves stress and lowers blood pressure. Very simple. How many of you knew that when you forgive someone, it affects your stress level and your blood pressure? Thumbs up or say yes or no in the chat.
Can you repeat your question?
Yeah, how many of you knew that if you forgive someone, it affects your stress level and lowers your blood pressure?
Yes, a lot.
Did you know that?
Mhm.
If you did, just write yes in the chat. If you didn't, just write no in the chat. Just want to gauge where you guys are in terms of your understanding of forgiveness. Okay, so it's just something for you to think about, right? So we learned that definitely forgiveness affects our mental health, and that also affects the way our body reacts, specifically our blood pressure. Next slide. Okay. So in their findings, increase in empathy and decreases in attributing responsibility for a situation to another person were associated with increases in forgiveness. So then the question arises, how do we know part of it is developing empathy. Then how do we develop our forgiveness, right? Cultivating forgiveness. Well, think about the thoughts you have. When somebody does something to you, or your thoughts are, I think about how to get back at that person. Do you think about getting back at that person? That's unforgiveness. I think about how that person hurt me and wish for them to feel hurt too. So that's, you need to identify where your thoughts are. Are they in an unforgiving state or are they in a forgiveness state? Forgiveness can be, I wish good things for that person. I don't want them to experience the same level of hurt. And these traits were measured in this study, and they did find that people that had the forgiveness traits were more likely to not experience stress and have good mental health. This is a forgiveness activity. Basically, I'm going to read this aloud, and you're going to think about how this makes you feel. This is by Maya Angelou, this quote, and she's an author who is well known for her autobiography. She created a different style of autobiography. And I recommend you read her books if you're interested. It's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself to forgive. Forgive everybody. What stood out to you about that quote? Did you recognize that forgiving yourself, that it's a gift for yourself, even when you forgive everybody else? So that's an interesting point, that sometimes people think if they forgive, they don't realize that it's for yourself, not just for the person that you're forgiving. It's a good idea for you to begin to identify your stress. And also, if you'd like to have a journal to identify who you need to forgive. Here are some journal prompts that you can have. You can just start with, I forgive. You can name that person for, and if somebody is coming to mind right now, I suggest you write that name down, and it might be a good idea for you to write about that. And if you feel up to it, maybe you can talk to somebody about that as well. Now, what will my life be like if I don't forgive them? So think about that. We learned that forgiveness affects our mental health. It elevates our stress level if we don't forgive. It elevates our blood pressure. So what will your life be like if you don't forgive? Maybe you'll have more tension. Maybe you'll develop some medical conditions in the future. So just something to think about. And then you can think about what you want to be forgiven for. I wish to be forgiven for. So these are just some prompts that you can have when you're thinking about forgiveness, if you want to create a forgiveness journal. And just to kind of reiterate everything we've learned in terms of how to develop forgiveness, we want to develop these traits. Some ways to develop them are to think about empathy, and empathy is just basically treating somebody the way you want to be treated without expecting anything in return. You want to treat them with kindness and respect. Reframing the situation. When you feel you can't forgive somebody, maybe you can say, maybe I can forgive them. I can control my ability to forgive. These are two ways that you can reframe the idea of not being able to forgive someone to possibly being able to forgive someone. Don't seek revenge. Let go of your expectation for an apology or understanding. So you want to acknowledge your feelings. You want to do you want somebody to stay angry with you? That's an important question. Like, do you like that feeling of somebody being angry with you? You can write a forgiveness letter. You can write in your forgiveness journal. And remember that forgiveness is good for you. It's good for your health. In this quote, it says, forgiveness is not an action, it's a discipline. So just remember that this is something to keep in mind every day. It's like you're training yourself to develop forgiveness. Sometimes we have to do that. In the study, they also cited that decrease in rumination increases forgiveness. So what is rumination? Rumination is constantly thinking about negative things. So we worry about our family, we worry about our finances, we worry about our job, but this doesn't help the situation, okay? We don't want to worry about negative things. Remember that when we're doing mindfulness exercise, if we're in the past, are those thoughts negative? If we're in the future, are those thoughts negative? So that's rumination. We don't want to do that. So how can we stop that? Oh, we can actually stop rumination by just using the acronym STOP, right? Stop when you're ruminating. Stop the constant negative thoughts. And you can actually say in your mind, stop. You can take a breath to reset yourself. You can observe thoughts, and you can recognize that those thoughts are a distraction. They're distracting you from whatever you need to do. Maybe you need to pay your bills. Maybe you need to set your appointments for the doctor, whatever it is. And then you can proceed to the present moment, okay? So this acronym is very helpful. It's simple to help you to stop ruminating. This one, I don't know if this is going to work, but this is thoughts as clouds. So when you have a negative thought, so everybody think of a negative thought, some thought that you've constantly been thinking about. Maybe it's paying the bills, maybe it's you're stressed out about an exam you have to take, whatever it is. Just imagine that you're putting it out into the clouds, and the clouds are going to float away. So let's see if this works. Ah, there it is. Your thought is floating away, and it continues to float away. So this is just an exercise that you can do. And I like doing this actually when I'm in the park. I just lay my blanket down and I look up at the sky, and I just have my negative thoughts floating away. So this is something that you can do also. All right. We're going to learn some more stretches, simple stretches that you can do at work, at your desk. We're going to do a palm stretch. Everybody stretch out your arm with your palm facing forward, and then you're going to take the other hand and gently stretch. Okay. And then you want to do the same with the other side. Gently pulling your fingers down. You can see that this relieves some tension in the shoulders as well as in the arms. Okay, next. We're going to do a letting go activity. Pressure points are very popular. Acupressure is very popular in Chinese medicine. They believe that when you touch a certain point in the body, it's releasing energy, And it is actually moving circulation and it's relaxing the muscle. It helps you to relax the muscle and the tension in the body. So we're going to cross our hands. And you can use 2 fingers right underneath the collarbone. Just find like a tender spot. It could be anywhere that feels comfortable to you. And then once you find those pressure points underneath the collarbone, gently press in circular motion. Okay? And we can do this for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the idea is you're letting go of the stress, the tension that is in your body. All right, now we're going to do a facial yoga exercise to release tension. It also has to do with acupressure. And this gentle face yoga is to release the tension, which can also, if you release the tension, like if you keep tension here, it can cause headaches. It can cause us to grind our teeth. So place fingers on the jaw, and it was supposed to be 2 TOW, but that's okay. 2 fingers on the jaw and massage using gentle circular motion. We're going to move up to the ear, okay? Slowly. You're going to notice like things feel like they're getting loose, right? And tingling. And you can move your jaw a little if you need to. Make sure that you're taking your comfortable deep breaths. Right when you get about up to right underneath the ear, it starts to feel more tense, but that's okay. Okay, and you can just do it again. It makes you feel alert because the blood is circulating in that area and relaxed in the jaw. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is a mindfulness quote. It's important for you to remember why mindfulness is important. All you have is this moment. Don't let it slip away. Okay, we're gonna watch this video. This is somebody who has empathy and forgiveness down. So we're gonna watch what he does. This is for education. What does he get in return for doing this every day? There you are. He gets nothing. He won't be richer. He won't appear on TV. Still anonymous. And not a bit more famous. What he does receive our emotions. witnesses happiness?
ได้เข้าใจ
Reaches a deeper understanding.
ได้ความรัก
Feels the love. So this is somebody, we want to get to that state, right? We want to get to that state where we have so much forgiveness in our hearts that even though we have stressful situations, we know how to manage them well. And we can build better relationships that way and just have overall happiness. So this was just, I thought, a cute, this is a Thai commercial. Right, next. Oops, let's see. In the previous presentation, we had a riddle, and I promised you that I would give you the answers, but did anybody figure out the answers to the riddles? So the first riddle was, what can you catch but not throw? Give you a minute to think about it. It's actually, it does take some thinking, some thought process here. What can you catch but not throw? Ready for the answer? A cold. Get it? You can catch a cold, but you can't throw it, physically throw it, right? You could probably give somebody a cold, but you can't throw it. All right, what goes around the world but stays in the corner, in a corner? Ready for the answer? A stamp. Got it? Okay. So these riddles are good because they help you focus on trying to find the answer, and it gets you out of any state of negativity or rumination. And I just wanted to remind everybody that there is a counselor's corner, and in the counselor's corner, there's a variety of resources that help with anxiety, motivation, and I have some videos for those of us that like to listen to music while we study or just want more meditations. There are some guided meditation videos on that website. And just as a reminder, these techniques are for us to use every day, but if we're feeling very stressed and signs of distress, then we need to seek professional help. And signs of distress include feeling of extreme fear, anger, sadness, worry, changes in your appetite, your energy, your activity levels, difficulty sleeping, nightmares, and all these other stressors. You want to seek help from your professional, from a healthcare professional. I have the number here. It's a hotline that you can call anytime in case you're feeling like you need some help. And you can also contact me or anyone in student support services to help you find a resource to help you with your stress level. And thank you so much. My name is Barneca Nieves. I am the counselor. Liliana Ortiz is our career coordinator and business liaison. And Tiano Cavalakis is our allied health office and accounting and GED testing person. So feel free to reach out to the student support services if you need any more help with stress or if you need any resources for mental health. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.